All right, everybody, we are back, and welcome back to the Fifth Gear Show.
We're back! Classic! We are back! We are back!
This is season number 2. We've got more budget and better editing, probably. I don't know, maybe. We are starting our season up this year. We started a couple weeks ago. We've had a couple weeks of practice. We had a captain's week practice that went really well. And we just got done with our open water swim with Swim Across America, where we raised over $6,500. So that was really awesome. But we shot a video on that that's up on YouTube, just some highlights from that event, and we had a lot of fun. But Tony and I didn't swim in it. We wanted to watch instead. So I think that was a fair move. But we got Dawson and Guillaume here today. Fellas, how's the beginning of the season going so far? How are we feeling?
I'm feeling good. I think we look good in the water.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of racing each other in each practice. Like, I'm looking over across the lane lines. I'm like, all right, who am I racing against while we're doing this? And so I think there's a lot of, like, team chemistry and team camaraderie that we're racing against each other in practice. And, I mean, compared to last year, I feel like we're already ahead.
I mean, Tony and I agree for sure. We've been talking about that past couple days. But Guillaume, how you feeling?
I'm agree with Dawson too, because we're already seniors this year, and from my perspective, I believe like this is the year that we started like the hardest, like the fastest. Like we're going really, really strong on every practice. It's true that the freshmen help us a lot, push from the beginning. They've been swimming during summer. They're pushing the whole team. That's really good for us, because they make us be conscious on where we are and what we got to do to go back at our best level the faster we can,
And the freshmen, too, have come off a pretty hot summer,
Mm-hmm.
competing at Futures, going a lot of best times, junior nationals. So they came in racing all summer and kind of brought it right into the start of the training season, too.
The freshmen for sure came in hot. They're fast.
Freshmen and Collie and a few more. They're really, really strong.
They're definitely ready to go. They're not messing around, and they don't look like they're really intimidated or anything like that. So that's good. And
they look excited, I'd say.
Yeah,
I think everybody's that way. Everyone's showing up to practice ready to go.
Yeah, that's what Tony and I have been talking about that a lot. Like this just looks different this year, and the attitude is different. And I think we're really going to cash in this year and be. We think this is going to be definitely our most successful year, and I mean we had an awesome one last year, so having a better one this year would be awesome. But knock on wood that we don't have any crazy stuff happen. But
we will.
I mean, this also we always do.
There'll be something.
I feel like this is also the first season that, like, knock on wood, COVID's not an issue. Like, we had our freshman year, and then sophomore year was sophomore year, but then last year was
like a hybrid.
Yeah, it was still kind of weird. We weren't all like together always, but this year I feel like everything's kind of back to normal. We're back together.
I don't know about you guys. I feel, and I've talked with other coaches around too. There's a sense of energy in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first week of class, we saw the cages upstairs being filled with softball players, baseball players, basketball players have been hooping all the time. The ice machines have been like empty for the past 2 weeks.
Cannot even
Ice
take
baths.
ice baths.
Everyone's coming in, they're wanting to get their treatment, they're focused, they're ready to be athletes. So it's
it's not just us. It's all of Full Athletics who's ready to go.
Yeah, you definitely. It's a different vibe right now, and it's something where you're like, this is my 4th year and this is their 4th year, so we're on the same plane here. But it's like stuff where you can be like, oh, I remember when we did that 4 years ago, like, and it's something we can finally start doing again. So, but today we are here for a very important discussion. We're going to be discussing. We're going to have like a different topic or something with each guest each week. So this week I wanted to have Guillaume in here to discuss who the best race car driver of all time is. So he got a heavy dose of racing this summer. He went to the Indy 500. Tony and I and Guillaume went to the IndyCar race in St. Louis a few weeks ago. So he's got his fair share. So we've been talking a lot of racing, and especially with like Drive to Survive on Netflix now. A lot more people are starting to pay attention to it. So it's a little hard to get into arguments with people that only watch that because they take that context and they really don't know what they're talking about. But
Is that foreshadowing?
No. Guillaume knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about, except for this one instance.
I have my own opinion.
So we're going to talk about who the best race car driver of all time is, and we got Dawson here and Tony to kind of mediate. And I don't know, you don't really have to take sides. You just have to, I don't know, you can ask questions, whatever, just to move the conversation along. But
who's the guy that does the presidential debates?
He works for ABC.
It's something Cooper.
Anderson Cooper?
Anderson Cooper.
We're Anderson Cooper today.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who that is.
American politics.
So, Gim, we're going to start on your side, and we're going to go, who is the best race car driver of all time, in your opinion?
First of all, I want to do an honorable mention.
Okay.
Because it's true that we always talk about really fast racings, like it's F1, IndyCar, NASCAR. We give a lot of credit to those drivers, and it's true that they have a lot of ability at the time of driving. But if we're talking about skill, it's true that the World Rally Championship drivers are always, I'd say, a step over those drivers. And I want to one of the special mention for Sebastian Loeb. I don't know if y'all heard of
So
that.
I actually agree with what you're talking about right now.
Okay, yeah. I told you I was going to come with my facts.
I 100%. I am not arguing that at all.
I got some notes down, and he holds the World Rally Championship records for most podiums, stage wins, most event wins, the making the winningest World Rally Championship driver. So he's the best one ever.
And he's French, right?
French.
Okay,
French.
yeah.
Also, special mention for Carlos Sainz, Senior, not Junior.
Also,
he's not
Dakar
quite there.
rallies and
Dakar
stuff
Rally
like that.
winner, World Rally Championship winner. I believe.
And I like to add, as a new fan of racing and watching Drive to Survive, world-class winery house.
And the signs,
The signs house. is
they have a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, I guess we should have started out with we like talking about racing because it correlates well with swimming. I mean, you're basically doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
And Tony and I are kind of like the race engineers, and if they have a bad race, you're like, what the heck's the engineer doing? I totally agree with your I mean, those guys are crazy good at what they do, and the fact that Loeb and he did it for so long. And even with Colin McRae, I guess they kind of bled over into each other before Colin McRae died in a helicopter crash. But Colin McRae was a different driver. Sebastian Loeb, super consistent and always was finishing at the top. But Colin McRae just went all out, didn't care if he crashed, but which is just a different style. But he got super popular that way too. But probably the top two drivers in rally.
So for us casual racing fans, can we break down the different types of race car drivers we're talking between rally to F1, IndyCar, and kind of explain a little difference?
So, I mean, you kind of have different, the basic, I don't know,
I'd say
classes would be open wheel, which is going to be,
F1,
you're not going to have any
Indy.
fenders on the wheels, basically. And then you've got stock cars, which is NASCAR.
So you got the Camaros, the Camrys, the Mustangs.
And then you have rally, which is going to be
Like
turbocharged.
Turbocharged Focus STs, and they're running on dirt though. They're not running tracks. They do
a little both.
They go on to pavement sometimes.
But the majority of the
majority
racing
is dirt,
dirt,
or
They do
gravel.
ice.
blind corners.
They do snow too.
Yeah, they go up
okay.
and
They race
they'll go to
race in
Finland.
snow.
And,
That's
yeah.
on Sweden.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And then there's GT cars, so you'll have your Ferrari has a GT
Typical
class.
Lamborghini car.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Ferrari.
vet races like GTD Pro.
And
or
that's
something like
normally, that kind of encompasses more endurance racing where you got 12 hours,
Le Mans,
24 hours,
yeah.
stuff like that.
So Le Mans is a rally car race.
No, that's
Le Mans-
that's GT.
that.
Okay,
stuff.
GT.
Yeah,
And
so you go to
prototypes.
GT40 and they run 24 hours at Le Mans or 24 hours at Daytona.
And then you'll have the prototype at Le Mans where it's Cadillac has a team where
Porsche.
they build their engine, and they're really goofy looking, like long cars that you can't buy them basically. So, but I agree with that. So, what are you coming with? I actually agree more with that than the next person you're. about to tell me.
right. Like I wouldn't be sitting here arguing with you if that's what you said all week.
No, we're here
Yeah.
to discuss.
Okay,
and to
okay, let's go with
hear
the.
each other ideas. and
Let's
opinions.
go with the.
All right, let's hear your opinion.
Another honorable mention for me is
we're doing
for Ayrton Senna.
Yeah,
Ayrton
okay.
Senna,
Mhm.
debatable the best racing driver ever. In my opinion, the most talented one, almost by far. Other than more than Schumacher, more than Hamilton, more than Mario Andretti, whoever you want to compare him with. He changed the F1. He changed the limits, the cars. He changed everything. A bad thing, he had too many accidents. He wanted to push the limit a little bit too far, and he paid it at the end. Rest in peace. But
In
it's true that
Canada, right? Is that where?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really fast. He was really sharp and selfless. Like he had this F1 driver personality that built up through the years.
I mean, this is again. I agree with this one too.
Okay.
So you're on.
And actually, Ayrton Senna was voted driver of the
Century.
greatest Formula One driver in 2009.
Okay.
So
I do
the
remember
driver
that.
of the century is like Mario Andretti from the last century. That's
Okay.
fair enough.
So who's your pick for this century's top
Yeah.
driver?
So just give me your now.
Now let's
We
get
can
to the hot topic.
we can do honorable mentions all day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
let's
know.
get to the hot topic.
I just want to mention.
Yeah,
these-
no, I
these-
agree. Okay.
These few ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I like this tactic though. He's giving you little jabs.
Yeah.
He warmed me up
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna be bad.
And then he's gonna drop the bombshell.
Yeah. I could talk more. Schumacher, Fangio, they all did a lot
Yeah.
for F1 basically.
Yeah.
But
But my personal favorite and the one I think that contributed more on those last years F1 and racing in general is Lewis Hamilton. Just for the charisma, the good manners.
Good manners.
Good man. At the end,
You go ahead. Keep going. It's fine.
Good
I'm gonna
man.
let you finish your point.
It's true that probably one of your counterpoints that you're gonna give me that Mercedes won the constructors for 6 or 7 or 8 years in a row, and that's fair enough. But he actually helped the whole team to build up with it. So you needed a really conscious driver and really experimented driver to get to the point that team got. You don't get that with Alex Albon or Nicolas Latifi, definitely not. And another point for Hamilton, highest world titles, most race wins, most pole positions, most podium finishes, most career points, and most laps led. He leads all the rankings in the F1. This debatable the best racing competition out there right now. It's true that they got all this help. They got a steering wheel. How is it called?
Power steering.
Power steering. They
Traction
got
control,
all
analog
this kind
brakes.
of electronics. But at the end, in my opinion, what this does is it helps the driver focus only on their skill and the race line and everything. What they it's pure driving. It's pure driving. You can.
Okay, so this is where I gotta. This is where I can't agree with you on that, because when you have that, it's so if you're playing a video game, okay, and it's a racing game, and you can turn all these assists on like the F1 car does. And when you have all these assists on, what does it say up in the top on difficulty when you have all that up?
It's like
Easy.
amateur.
And it says easy on it.
Easy.
So
Have
you can focusing on the driving line, stuff like that. I get that, but when you can multitask, when you're shifting, gear shifting with your hand, not sequential shifting now, gear shifting, messing with weight jacker bars, under the car, wherever, okay, to adjust the balance mid race, not in mid turn sometimes.
Okay.
And also focusing on the racing line at the same time, messing with all those tools, trying to perfect your car. And that, to me, if a guy is driving one of those without all that help, I find that way more impressive than what F1. And I like watching F1 driving, racing. I really do like it. but I understand what is happening in their races and how much they are so car dependent on how good they do. You can't, so for an example, like an IndyCar, you can have some C tier team win a race every once in a while, and it's not like F1. You might have Gasly won, was it 2 years ago at Monza, and then Ricardo won last year with McLaren, but it's like that happens so few times. With if you look at IndyCar, it might happen once every 5 races or something where some low ranked team is winning. Well, and even the race we went to in St. Louis, the kid that got second, that team was way underfunded. That kid that got second,
wasn't he a rookie? Yeah,
and he's a rookie. So, something like that just won't happen in F1 unless you're in a car that can bring you to the top. And like you said, Mercedes being the constructors champion for, I think it was what did you have it written down,
2014 to 21.
2014, and then you had Rosberg in there with the championship where they were dominating, going 1-2
every race,
qualifying 1-2, race 1-2.
So tell me about the timeline with Lewis Hamilton. Was he with Mercedes his whole career?
He started with McLaren.
So he started
with McLaren.
So he never had to go into an entry level team.
No.
Okay. Heath got thrown straight into the top team with Alonso.
And started winning.
But he was Alonso's teammate or Raikkonen's teammate?
Raikkonen.
Whoever.
He started with Raikkonen,
and then Raikkonen went to Ferrari.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but that does not happen where you're getting thrown into now. There's no way the guy gets a top seat unless he's got.
But you're not going to find
ton
a
of
guy
money.
as talented as Hamilton.
I'm not debating that he's not talented at all.
One thing that gets me is whenever you talk about great races, the great races in history, it's always won with an underdeveloped car. Nobody talks about the racers that win with their perfect car. Since lap 1, they weren't tight, they weren't loose, no oversteer, it was a perfect car all day. They don't talk about those wins. They talk about the wins where you're battling the car all day, you're making adjustments all day, nothing goes your way and you still end up winning. And that's just not happening with Lewis. He has a borderline perfect
give me
car.
An example of an underdeveloped
So
car
I mean
that won a world championship in that one.
That a bad car?
Yeah.
You're talking about the last 30 years. It hasn't been like that.
Exactly.
Motorsport
is not like that anymore.
I think the last mid-level car that won the F1 championship was probably Schumacher when he was in the Benetton.
I agree.
And that's the last time you'll ever see that happen.
See, but to me, that's a more impressive win than any of Lewis.
And that's what I'd argue, that Michael Schumacher is a better driver.
But I got some note in here about it too. And it's true that Schumacher had this great talent. He dominated the F1 from middle 90s into middle 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
But he was superior physically to everyone else in the grid.
Yeah, because he's a big dude.
Yeah. And that's what helped him with the non as much electronical and technological.
When he kind of started it, he was in that movement where it went from manual to all electronic. He kind of did both. Mm-hmm. So he won championships in the manual side of it, and then he won.
Benettons.
Yeah, and then he won championships with the high tech stuff.
Yeah. Which car did he have during the during the electronic?
Well, there was a couple Ferrari years
in the
late '90s where they were not good, but he was out driving really well.
Like Lewis did with Mercedes. He had the whole team Ferrari that didn't win a championship since the '78, something like that. He helped the whole team build up. He looked for the best engineers, the best mechanics, and everything, and they built up
you're talking about. So the other thing is So now F1 has the salary cap, right? Where it's you can only spend $250 million or whatever. Only $250 million. But before that, Mercedes was throwing so much money because they're a factory team. They were putting in $450, $500 million a year, and then the next closest team, I think Ferrari, they were 300 something, or maybe it was Red Bull, it was either one of them. But the amount of money they're throwing in, and that helps. Money's going to help in racing any time. You're going to get better stuff. and you
I
got
agree.
smarter people in charge because they're not going to let people at Williams are probably not as smart as people at Mercedes as far as in the factory and all that stuff. But that's when you get into that high tech. Like Williams in the '90s was unstoppable. They were one of the best teams ever.
Now Latifi's the
And-
laughing stock
and now they're
of
terrible.
F1.
Yeah, so and they just don't have the funding. They're not a factory team. They're so
Yeah, I agree with that. The more money you have, the more money to develop your car, build a better team you're gonna have. But you actually need to prove something at the beginning to get all the funding from the sponsors and everything.
yeah, but when you're Mercedes though,
So are you giving Lewis Hamilton more of like a Steph Curry role where he's not so much the best driver, but he's building up everybody around him to make
building
a better
a team.
I'd say more like Michael Jordan, man.
So
More
where
like the GOAT.
Okay.
So with the Michael Jordan analogy,
Uh-huh.
the Bulls they called him, I think, the cocaine circus of
Oh
the
yeah,
NBA.
yeah.
And Michael Jordan stepped in, and
Cleared
where
it all
was
up.
Mercedes before Lewis Hamilton?
It didn't exist.
No, they
They came
started.
in.
They were, when was the Braun? That was 2010.
2010.
So they had this startup team. Ross Braun started this team where he just threw in his own money, and they ended up winning the championship just because they had this.
Wasn't Jensen?
They had
Button?
Jensen
Yeah.
Button, and all they did was put this diffuser on the back of a wing, which is just two like these little metal pieces sticking out to give it more downforce. That's all they did, and they ended up winning the championship with no money. Well, so I guess that could have been the no money team. Braun was probably the
Yeah.
last one.
Like the beginning of it.
Yeah, so once they won, and then Mercedes came in, bought Braun out, and then they became Mercedes. And they had like 2 years where Schumacher came back.
Yep.
And he drove for Mercedes, and I can't remember who their
Didn't
other driver
Debray.
was.
No, he didn't. He didn't do great, but he did. He wasn't.
I mean, he's old. He's
Yeah, he
pretty
wasn't
old
that
by then, but because once you get older in racing, it's tough to hang. But
It's just so physically demanding.
Yeah.
That if you're a 50-year-old racing a 22-year-old, like they're just gonna be able to handle the heat of the car and everything like
that's
that.
funny you mentioned that because my driver is
Okay.
the best of all time is Mario Andretti because this guy has won in every class of racing that you can think of. You name something, probably except for like speedboat racing. He's won something.
Anything that has wheels.
So he's been an F1 champion, a Formula One champion. He's been an IndyCar champion 4 times. He has won the Daytona 500. He's won his class in the 24-hour Le Mans. He has won. Did I say the Daytona 500?
Yeah,
the Indy 500 is what.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won the Indy 500. He has driven on dirt when he first started and won sprint car races, midget races, stock car races on dirt. He won races when he was 57. I think he was 57. I think when he won an IndyCar race, and he holds the next pole by Will Power. If he gets it this weekend, he'll break Mario's record. I think it's like 70-something poles or something. And I think he's third in IndyCar wins with like 57. Scott Dixon passed him this year. AJ Foyt still has the most. He's won Pikes Peak as well. I forgot to mention that. In Colorado, you're literally hill climbing with when he did it, I think now Pikes Peak's all paved, but Pikes Peak, when he did it, was dirt and then no barrier. You could literally fly off the mountain.
The
if you
top,
were-
the top like 5K still has no barrier, but
Okay, so
Ken Block has a video in there, like drifting the whole.
yeah, Climb Kana.
Yeah.
So-
Climb Kana's
yeah.
nice.
So what? So we got. So I go back to your rally racer, Sebastian Loeb. Mario did that too on Pikes Peak, so he can do rally. He can slide on dirt. And
Yeah, but you're comparing
and-
the World Rally Championship. To
But
Pikes
no,
Peak.
No,
but
but-
I'm saying he's been an F1 champion. Okay, he's won in everything. Okay, and I think the argument you have with Lewis Hamilton is he's only done F1. I haven't seen him drive
There were 7
anything.
times.
I know, but he hasn't done anything else. And I feel like and you can look at this with Grosjean right now. He went over to IndyCar. The dude can't hang right now because it's not not an automatic
We're
car.
talking about Grosjean,
I know, but what I'm saying.
I know he's the Phoenix
He's
and
the
everything.
Phoenix.
But what I'm saying,
But man,
Well, so what I'm saying is, if Lewis comes, theoretically, if Lewis came over to IndyCar, this is just an example. So in IndyCar, you don't have power steering, okay? You don't have traction control. You don't have analog brakes. You have to adjust your weight and all that stuff in the car. I feel like he would have a really hard time doing that stuff.
I would agree with you.
And the I really don't think he'd be able to handle the physicality, because this dude's complaining about bumping down a straightaway.
Yeah. Okay.
And that if you watch an IndyCar race on a street course, these dudes are bumping and like doing this the whole time.
Piece of metal. Yeah.
And it is impressive when you watch that. And I know Tony's just been to an oval race. We want to take him to a street course or a road course where they're just
go to Coda. I sat turn 1 of Coda for whenever NASCAR and all them came to Austin, and it's such
cool
a
track.
beautiful racetrack, and it's like the layout of it is incredible. Murphy wants to go to Dakota, and I heavily advised him to go to Dakota because it was one of the best racing weekends.
It's
I've
a cool
been to.
track, and I just that's basically what my argument is. It's we're talking about, if you're talking about F1, best F1 driver of all time, then yeah, I'd be partially agreeing with you, even though I think Senna's better, and Schumacher.
I'd say I'd throw Schumacher in front of that.
Yeah, I agree, but and this comes to my next point. Even though this guy's from your country, I don't know why you hate him, but so Fernando Alonso made probably the most perfect quote I've ever heard. And
no,
this is from 2 weeks ago.
This is from a couple weeks ago. Was it Spa?
Spa.
Yeah. So Hamilton started.
It was a
sixth.
mistake.
Okay. Well, hold on.
Recognize
Well, no, I'm not faulting him for that. I'm glad he said like this is my fault or whatever. But he's in the mid pack and he cuts off Alonso. I think Alonso stayed in the race though.
Yeah.
So
Hamilton was out.
Hamilton crashed out, cut him off into a turn. And the first thing Alonso says when he comes on the radio is like, this guy did this because he doesn't know how to drive back here, because he's never been back here.
But that's not
And
true.
this is the first season that we've seen
not
Mercedes
true, though.
Back
struggle.
there,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is the
That's not
first
true.
season
We've
since
seen
2014. This is the first season Mercedes is
coming
struggling.
out of P20, going all the way to P1.
I know,
After they wreck in qualifying?
Yeah.
But that's
like,
when they. But you're talking about an elite car that you stick anybody in that thing, they're probably going to be at the front.
They
Would
were
you
saying
agree?
the same
Would you
thing
agree?
about George Russell? They were like, "Oh yeah, George Russell."
But he's
wasn't
not in a good
Williams.
car though.
Right now, he's not.
No,
when
but
they put him on the.
But if George Russell was in a Lewis Hamilton car from 2019, you don't think George Russell would be
I
dominating?
mean, he almost won.
I know he
race,
would have won,
yeah.
but they screwed him in a
Yeah.
pit strategy.
But that's what I was telling Guillaume yesterday. You throw Verstappen in the Mercedes from
those
2014
years,
to 2021.
dominates.
He has 7 championships
No.
just like
yes,
No.
yes.
So
that's
that
like-
has to build up.
So-
you think Verstappen has the same level of driving right now than when he started in 2014?
Okay, but look, you got to look at the pattern of F1 too, where they go through cars and spec where they have multiple years of guys winning, bam, 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 bam. They win a bunch of championships in a row with the constructor. So it's like when Red Bull with Vettel, they won like 5 in a row or 3 in a row, or four in a row. And then before that, it was like Ferrari won a bunch, and then before that, it was like Williams was winning them,
Yeah.
and then even Alonso when he won in the Renault, he won back to back because they had the best car.
I mean, even before that, though, Honda had 2 teams, and they were alternating constructor champs.
Yeah,
for
so
like 7 or 8 years.
It goes in groups because they develop these cars, and then until that car gets phased out and they have to build a new car. These constructors win all those championships.
Yeah.
So you could argue like Sebastian Vettel, those 4 years. I mean, that dude was dominant. There was one year he won like 12 races out of 8 or 18 rounds or whatever it was. And I mean, that's ridiculous. 12 races out of 18, and
I mean, Verstappen's not too far this year.
I know. But Verstappen is racing really well. But I mean, like Ferrari's like literally
Messing
giving
up.
it to him.
Yeah,
So
Ferrari's race strategy
it's
this year is
really
not been
bad.
good.
So I think that's where our argument is like I think it's just you're too F1 focused on the driver part of it, and when you're talking about best race car driver, I feel like you got to encompass more
The whole sport.
of what they're
That's
doing.
That's
Yeah.
the thing with it. Like when you talk about Mario Andretti, it's true. I've been reading more lately about him. It's true. He was a great driver. He was one of the best drivers, as you say, of all time. 100%. I agree. But would you say the talent Mario Andretti has or had in the past would make him the best driver of all time, or would make him the most versatile race driver of all time? Because if you put Ayrton Senna, Lewis Hamilton, Mario Andretti, Michael Schumacher, well, whatever, Sebastian Loeb, you think Mario Andretti would come on top of all of those? That's my
if
question.
in
Same
what
car.
when
Yeah,
it
what
was
we
Same
racing.
car,
But-
car in a track race.
Rally, F1,
No,
Indy.
yeah.
you're just saying like the same car and everybody has the best car.
Yeah.
And they're all equal.
Equal.
I mean,
Just
that's
talent, pure talent.
that's something where it just depends on what they're driving, first of all. So I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I
if
agree.
you throw Lewis in there and you're all of a sudden racing F1, like they're obviously gonna have anybody who had F1 experience in the past is gonna
like
be better. Like even though like Mario hasn't raced F1 since when?
he was 78
while.
world champ. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
78.
let's say
So-
no car. They give you 5 options: Loeb, Schumacher, Ayrton Senna, Hamilton.
Well, I
Andretti.
mean, I can tell
Who
you.
would you pick
I,
to race your car, your truck?
any car. Are you talking about when they're in their prime?
Yeah.
I'm taking
It-
Andretti.
I'm taking
100%.
Mario. Yeah.
I'm taking either or Hamilton.
I think just I
Or
can't get
Senna.
over
I
the
don't.
width of Mario's ability. Like he's the
Versatile.
only person to win the Indy 500, Daytona 500, and an F1 championship.
Yeah.
Like
There's not a lot of
he-
people who's tried though.
because they can't.
I just know
Who has
Alonso-
the option or the ability
I
to be able to find a
even
seat
Alonso,
in all three?
Even Alonso almost won it, and Alonso is not even. Maybe in the top 10 I would put him in there, but
Yeah.
he's not even there, even close, and he almost won it. He's missing like the Daytona 500 and the Indy.
For the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
So to get
He
the
won
Triple
the
Crown,
Daytona.
you have to win the Indy 500, Le Mans, and the F1 World Championship.
The thing is that not a lot of race drivers are capable or not capable, are down to leave their legacy to one racing motorsport and go to
Well,
somewhere else
I
and
think
risk
I wish
everything.
more would do that though now, where they branch out and do more stuff. Like you got like Kyle Larson in
racing
NASCAR.
midgets racing.
Yeah, he
dirts.
goes
Didn't
and
Jimmy Johnson too.
but Jimmy Johnson's not
in
good in
an
any
attempt to defend his point, is it financially worth Lewis Hamilton to go
No.
to another league?
No, because there
F1 has
is
the
an
most
ungodly
money.
amount of
F1,
money. Yeah,
like if you look at like where they race, like Monaco's, the money of it all.
it's a party.
Yeah, you've got $5 million yachts sitting right off the racetrack.
It's a
F1
show.
just has
and
the most
I mean,
money.
and F1's been like that. So I mean,
Forever.
it's the problem with IndyCar was like that in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to the mid 90s, and then they ended up splitting and creating 2 leagues, and that just murdered their whole fan base because it split everybody, and now they're back together again, and then they're growing again, so it's good for them. But I mean, so what I could say is like, if you gave me like a sprint car, like
Your truck.
no, I'm saying like
gotta
what
choose one
I'm
driver
saying
to
is
drive
like
your
there.
truck.
I think like if you threw a sprint car out there, like obviously Mario's going to be able to drive that, and then like Sebastian Loeb, I have full confidence to be able to drive that. But like if you threw Lewis in there,
Yeah, in a stock
no
car.
way. And Lewis in a stock car,
You've never seen him.
he might. I've seen him drive. Him and Tony Stewart did a seat swap thing where Stewart drove his McLaren, I think, and then Lewis did his NASCAR. And I think he was pretty competitive in it, but it's just, I don't know.
The problem is that you're comparing a driver from the 70s, right, Mario Andretti?
Well, he went 60s, 70s, 80s,
60s,
90s. He
70s,
did 4 decades.
But at that time of like the motorsport, it was way easier for you to move around sports. There was not as much competitors.
Well, because their contracts are
There was not
different.
as much as competitors either in any of the different disciplines. you're comparing with right now that.
Wait, what do you mean there wasn't enough competitors? What do you mean?
Like, it was easier to get a
compared to
seat.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Imagine you send Lewis Hamilton.
Oh,
to
you
the
mean to
Indy.
get a drive?
Yeah, to
you
get a
mean?
seat.
Okay.
Imagine you
It's-
get Lewis Hamilton at the Indy, and he has to compare Stanley with Will Power, Pato Ward, Palou, the best
It's like
drivers right
the
now.
Wilt Chamberlain argument. He played against plumbers.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah. okay,
like
okay.
Will
Yes.
has a 100-point
But
game
that-
because he was playing
Yeah.
against
But
5-6 plumbers.
but if you're talking about that with Mario, like he's driving against AJ Foyt, he's driving against like Phil Graham, like legendary dudes. So I mean, I get that with Will Chamberlain. It's like, who do you play against? Well, I don't know,
But-
some guy.
Yeah, but
So-
he drove with them for like a short span of time, and then he switched to another motorsport. And
But those other guys did the same stuff. Like back then, they all did that. They all
switched it.
they all drove sprint cars. They all drove Indy cars. They would go drive NASCAR.
Who's doing that nowadays?
But no,
Nobody.
that's
Nobody is.
that's more because of
That,
contract.
that cannot be a point because nowadays.
No, I
people
know,
are not
but
doing that.
I know, but
He's
when
saying it's a contract thing. Like, like the whole live golfers thing that's happening. They left PGA, go to live, now they want
Yeah.
to go back to PGA. Because they signed a contract with live, they can't go back to PGA. Because Lewis has a contract with McLaren, McLaren's not going to let him go and race Stuart Haas in NASCAR or Honda in Indy or anything like that because his contract is with Mercedes.
Yeah, but the contracts are like 2, 3, 4 years long. Then you can.
But they
finish
can work
and
around
go.
that stuff where they can
He has
put
enough
stuff
money.
in where they can. Oh, I want to go do
It
this.
just
Yeah.
nowadays F1 is peak racing. That's it. Peak racing. All the drivers in the world, I think, his main objective would be an F1 driver. There's just 20 that can be in the grid at one time. So.
But the best drivers in the world are not all in F1.
I agree. I completely agree. with that.
I would say there's a handful of really good drivers in F1, and that's
But
about
do
it.
you think
Like, you're gonna
they
call
wanna-
Latifi a
do-
world-class driver?
Do you think they want to be in F1 the best drivers in the world?
Well, yeah, because you're going to get paid.
Because that's peak racing.
Well,
Peak racing, man.
but you got to take the money out of it, like where, if money wasn't an issue, would you want to go to a series where if you're not on that team, you're screwed?
Not winning. Yeah.
If you're not on that team, you're screwed. If you're on that team,
Maybe.
you maybe win. I don't know. Like that's the thing. Like that's where I go back to this car dependency thing. Like you have to be on a good team or you're not going to do anything.
I agree.
So
I also read. I've been doing the research. The funding of the F1
is ridiculous.
and like Ferrari gets like automatically $40 million that no one else team gets.
Just
Yeah.
because Ferrari.
Just because
Yeah.
they're Ferrari.
Yeah.
Well,
so
one thing I think we're gonna have to wait for is the longevity. Like we were saying, Mario Andretti, he's the only driver to win Driver of the Year in 3 different decades.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
he
that's
won,
true.
He
Yeah.
won 67, he won 78, and 84.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Lewis can go on to have the longevity and the career that Mario had, maybe you throw him in the argument. But
He's
we're
not
just gonna have to
far.
wait
He
and
just
see
needs
though.
a driver of the day. Driver of the year this year. This decade.
So, do you think he's gonna be Driver of the Year in 2034 and 2045?
I think
He's
he's
had
gonna.
3 decades.
I think he's
He got
gonna.
it.
2020, 2030,
I
and
think
2040.
he's done after this year.
2010s and 2020s.
I think he's done
3
after this
decades.
year. He's gonna retire.
No, he said he's not.
He's not gonna
retiring.
retire. He's
He says
chasing an 8.
I was actually seeing that at the reg yesterday. It was on TV, and his contract expires on 2023, I think.
Oh, okay.
And
well,
he
if
said
they have a
that
bad car
he's-
next year,
he's gonna renew it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if they have a bad car next year.
He's chasing an 8th though. I don't think he's going anywhere until he at least gets close to that.
I believe so.
So nowadays, when an old F1 driver is kind of done with F1, do they go down to like IndyCar? Because it almost
Nah.
I've always thought it was. I don't know if it was something like where a Premier League soccer player goes down. To
No,
MLS.
so you'll
or like
see-
a A1 pitcher goes down to
So
AAA.
usually, like Formula One drivers, like now, it's like they'll go to Formula E, like the
Okay.
electronic
Some
thing.
of them, but
Some of,
it's
but
like
it just
the
depends
really
if you want to keep
mid-drivers.
racing.
and then yeah,
Some people are just dumb.
And then what's the DTM stuff like that circuit, like in Germany,
Yeah, I mean,
would be.
DTM is just a race, like.
Right.
But it's like a sports car
Formula-
champion.
yeah,
They would
it's a
probably
sports-
go there. Like, they're not going to come across the U.S.
No.
unless.
So
I mean,
Mar-
you see Grosjean, like he
Yeah.
came to the Indy and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think after racing in F1 most of them I don't think they don't continue racing.
But it seems like a lot of times whenever you're done with F1, a lot of the perception is you've reached the peak of racing. You've now raced your career. You're kind of over it. You're ready to start a
probably got the
family.
money.
You're ready to go home. You have your money. So I'm done.
When Mario Andretti was racing, was it the same F1 people he's racing in F1? They go off and they race the same drivers in IndyCar.
No, it's
So
all
he
It was
different.
completely different.
The only time he would race the same people, like if he went to Le Mans, he'd be in the same boat with a lot of people. But F1 the Indy 500 used to be a round of Formula One. They used to make that one of the championship rounds. They stopped doing that after like 10 years or something. But I think the longevity thing too that Dawson said. I mean, the dude I think he started the early 60s, and I mean, I went to 500 when I was 10, and he was on the
What year
pole
was
of
this?
the 1994.
He's got a bit of racing experience on you.
Exposing
So
him.
I think the other knock against F1 and why a lot of racers don't go over there is, especially if you ask IndyCar guys, they know it's super political, and if you don't have money, if you can't bring money to a team,
They're not gonna take you.
they're not going to take you. So like someone like Scott Dixon, who's one of the best drivers of all time, like he said, like, I just don't have any, I don't know why, I don't want to go over there. There's no reason for me to go over there. And probably with him, he doesn't have some parent, his dad, like, I mean, I know Sainz is pretty good, but like his dad has a lot of money where he can push behind him, and Scott Dixon doesn't have something like that, where Scott Dixon would go over to F1 and he'd be on that mid-card team and he would just be wallowing in mediocrity. So
You can also think, though, who was the Haas driver last year whose dad was the main sponsor?
Nikita
Mazepin.
Mazepin.
Yeah, Mazepin. Mazepin's dad was
Russian
the
oligarch.
the Russian oligarch
Yeah.
that basically funded their team, but his son was just not a good driver.
Yeah.
But because of how political the sport is, he got the spot. It
Yeah.
only lasted one season, but
Well,
he got the spot.
the only reason it lasted it was going to last more, but Russia
They got
invaded
banned.
Ukraine.
So back to Scott Dixon. You want to give us a preview of the race this weekend?
Oh, so yeah.
And your pick?
So
Oh.
the IndyCar race is it's at Laguna Seca this Sunday. It's the last round, and Will Power is leading the championship. Over two people are tied in second. It's Joseph Newgarden and Scott Dixon out of nowhere. Like, the guy was like 10th in points a few weeks ago, and now he's second in points. And it's going to be 20 points in IndyCar is not a lot. That's a very small
position,
margin. Yeah,
too.
it's a few positions. So it's basically going to be a shootout. But I think Newgarden is going to win on Sunday.
Ooh.
But I don't know. They're all going to be at the top. But I think Newgarden might. win.
I was watching before the team pictures and everything. I was watching the last race
In Portland. Yeah.
and I was impressed how fast Scotty Dixon was going. He was passing Paddock. He was passing.
He's very good.
Well, even
Until-
in Texas, whenever
McLaughlin
we'd go,
won.
Yeah.
Will Power and Newgarden were always they dominated Texas, which is a 1.5 mile oval, but they ran away. They won every IndyCar race I went to at TMS.
Penske's really good there.
They
yeah.
won. They won by seconds, half a lap.
It's like Scott Dixon, his nickname's the Iceman, because like it's kind of like he's second in points right now. He never panicked.
He clutched it up.
Yeah, and he's so good at, like, if they give him like fuel numbers and all that stuff, he's so good at all that stuff. And that's something, again, I mean, I don't want to go back into this argument like
We can.
where like Scott Dixon is worrying about hitting fuel numbers where you're like, okay, Scott, you got to go fast, but you can't go this fast. You have to go this fast, and you have to maintain that so you don't burn all your fuel up. In F1 now, you don't got to worry about
That's
burning
just
up
because
fuel.
the races are longer.
Well, no, you got a different type of fuel in the F1 car is a hybrid engine.
Yeah.
Even though it actually burns worse than an Indy car, which
But you'll
IndyCar uses
never.
all in all. Is that correct?
ethanol. Tony's
Cars.
Tony's favorite driver, or wait, best driver of all time is Lightning McQueen. He said
Yeah.
earlier, which I before we started. I was saying I think Lightning McQueen beat Lewis Hamilton in one of the races in the movie.
Everyone. That movie.
So, but I think what we're gonna do is I'll put a poll in the in this video, and you guys can vote on who do you think the best driver was, and if it's not either of those two guys, you can comment
Down below.
Yeah,
So-
comment down below.
Or you got someone else, yeah.
Yeah, someone else.
Yeah.
Just put down who you think it is.
Whoever it is, Verstappen.
Who-
Verstappen.
who's okay? You not picking your respective drivers. Is there a driver out there right now that could be that
That
person?
could be
Right
a
now,
future.
in 10
Max.
years that you could make
Max. I think it's Max.
I don't
Especially
think
if
so.
Red Bull continues with the trends. Like last year, they were second in the Constructors'
Second,
Championship.
yeah.
This year, they're going 1-2 almost every
So
time.
so if you're asking the question, who do you that's not successful yet? Who do you think can be like that? I think Lando Norris is really good,
But he's got to get out of McLaren.
but he's in a bad car.
Yeah,
and
Mercedes.
George Russell is also a very good driver. And then, I mean, Pierre Gasly's a really good driver, but
Yeah,
he's just
it's
stuck in the
just
Is he
not
still in
on the right
Alpha?
team.
It's too
Yeah.
late.
So,
But me personally, I'm going to put Lando, and then from F1, and then in IndyCar, Pato O'Ward is really good driver, and he's
gonna
super
go to
exciting.
F1.
I hope he doesn't
Eventually.
go to F1.
Eventually he will.
He
So-
wants to go to F1, but I just hope
we
he
talked
gets
about
deterred.
the Indy series. This weekend, Sunday, F1 goes to Monza
They're at Monza,
for
which is
what,
something
14 of
crazy.
18? No,
Some
13 of 18.
It's something at the end, but something always crazy happens at Monza.
Yeah.
So who's your pick for Monza?
Like a
At
weird win,
P-
like a not someone that's normally winning.
No, who is your winner at Monza for Sunday?
Max Verstappen's
He's
gonna
got
win.
it.
Verstappen?
Yeah.
Right now.
The Ferraris won P1
for practice.
by about a second.
They'll mess it up.
The one and the second. Yeah.
They'll do
Engine
something.
will blow.
I know
And then-
they came with the new livery and everything, right? It's just
Oh yeah, because it's their home race. So
Yeah.
what does it? Do
like
they have
the
like?
75th year anniversary.
Yeah, no, it's the Centurion. It's the 100th.
Oh, 100th?
Oh well,
Yeah,
maybe they'll
Monza
have good
opened
luck.
in 1922.
I feel bad for Charles
Charles
Leclerc.
Leclerc.
He's gotten really hosed by his own team
Yeah.
a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But he's also self-inflicted a lot of.
with getting hosed by your own team, what about Ricardo? Daniel was this Class A driver last year or 2 years ago. Came
No.
over to McLaren and just has struggled.
I
since.
think he's just kind of checked out, to be honest. Like,
Do you think he's checked
He's-
out of McLaren or McLaren's checked out on
He's
him?
always been looking for a best car instead of trying to build it one with
Yeah,
one team, and that he paid it off.
he kind of goes along with the ride. If the car's just average, he's like, yeah, okay, and then he just kind of goes.
Some kind of like Alonso did. Like after leaving Renault, like he went to Ferrari, could have with Ferrari, then he went to
Back to Renault.
Renault, then
Yeah.
Mercedes. This
And he
and
went to
that.
McLaren
And
when they
he
were
never
really
won
bad.
again since like 2004.
Where's he
so-
going next year?
Aston Martin.
He's taking Vettel's
He's
spot?
going to the back of the field.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I've heard that they're bringing a couple of Mercedes engineers.
I mean,
and that was like part of.
but
the
you
plan.
have Lance Stroll's
Their
dad
plan.
in charge,
Yeah.
so that's a problem. But this was fun talking about this. Hopefully, there's some sort of winner and someone will vote. If it's just one vote and it's for me, and I guess Dawson's saying Mario
I'm
too.
not
So
competing
Albert
with all the
will vote.
votes.
Albert will vote for Kyle Busch.
Yeah.
Albert's favorite driver will be Kyle Busch.
And if you're new to racing, you've learned a lot. I know I've learned a lot.
yeah, so we really like talking about a lot. Like again, we like to equate it to a lot of stuff in swimming, and we've kind of incorporated into our training too, which has been kind of fun, and it changes up.
And we'll keep talking about
I
it.
mean,
swim-
we have
swim
I mean, fifth
Yeah.
year. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
there.
And I
And
think
this
this-
part of the season is we are building our engine.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
making us
Developing.
aerodynamic.
Yeah.
We're
And there is a fun thing we're gonna add this year to one of the sets where we're gonna have like you're doing like a rolling pace
Yeah.
start, and you
Yeah.
all stay
Take
even
off.
with each other, and then you blow the whistle, and boom, you go.
No, it's not
A,
gonna
little,
work.
a 40, a rolling 40.
Sergio's gonna.
I've done quite a few rolling 40s in my time, but I don't think I've ever done a rolling 40.
Well,
We'll
swimming.
see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. If Sergio jumps the start, he gets black flagged and he gets pulled
Yeah.
out of the
Hey,
pool.
but a chase is a race.
Yeah.
A chase is a race.
So-
And it only pisses everyone else off because then they just have to keep swimming meaningless laps.
Yeah. Well, this was fun, but we'll have. I'm not sure what we're gonna do next week. If it's, I know we're gonna do something with the best who has the best sweet tea. We're gonna do a barbecue. Dawson might be in on that one again. Best
man.
sweet tea, best. Then we'll do one with. We're gonna do some barbecue and test that out. And then I know Sarah and Steph want to do one where one is blindfolded, they eat something, and they have to describe it to the other person and guess what they're eating without telling them what it is. So yeah, a lot of food stuff. We like eating.
We used to do sweet tea blind taste tests. when
That'd
we
be
went
tough.
camping. And
That would be tough.
Nah, I was goated. 4 for 4 every year. 4 for 4.
All right, well we will get out of here. We'll be back next week. Not sure what day, but we are having some fun so far in the season, and we look for keep the momentum up. So,
Yes, sir.
thanks guys for talking with me today. It was fun.
Thanks
And-
for inviting us.
Keep it in fifth gear and keep going fast.
Yes, sir.